Hi, this is Mad Cat, the egalitarian that discusses this and that. Today we're looking at another Tumblr post. Actually talking about, it's from a user called Social Justice for All, and we'll be discussing what the MRA is. As always, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize ahead of time. As you know, I spend a lot of time on Tumblr. By the way, I've somehow upgraded my system a little bit, or rather, someone donated someone and I figured out how to use it to the best of my ability. So hopefully this comes out to be better audio quality. So anyways, I'm on Tumblr a lot, and as I told my friend Brian, I get a lot of hope from Tumblr. There's a lot of viciousness on Tumblr, but then there are people out there, men and women, who really do want equality and is really calling out the bullshit of feminism. But, you still deal with it from time to time. So I came across this post, and it was from Social Justice for All. Now, if I'm understanding Social Justice for All, and it seems to be a group of people, not just one person. And I apologize if I'm misrepresenting you in any way. Please let me know what I'm getting wrong so I can correct it. Now, the person who made this specific post, I believe his name is Clavier Gavin. 20 years old, straight, cisgendered male, diagnosed with depression. I know what that's like, and hopefully you're working through that. Hopefully you have a support system to help you out with that. Loves debates and striking down arguments, facts, and evidence. Passion drives every musician, soul drives everyone. My kind of guy. We should go out drinking sometime when you turn 21. Studies politics and law. So I think it's him because the picture he's using is the same one. It's, I guess, from an anime I'm not very familiar with. No surprise there, not very familiar with anime. So anyways, the post was actually from, let me pull this up, Ariel Violet Giluli. Genderqueer, prefers gender-neutral pronouns, V verbis, E A M ear, or they them there, or female pronouns, she her. So she made a post, and she has deleted it, and I will read her message about that. But she initially posted a picture that she saw on Facebook of someone's post on Tumblr. So let me read that real quick. Apparently I got to it before it was deleted. I'm a guy, and I need feminism, not men's rights. Yeah, feminists tell us to look up the dictionary definitions, but then a man is saying he doesn't need men's rights? Okay. Here is why. Everything that MRA talks about that men can't do or are socially punished for arise directly and immediately from misogyny, not misandry. Misogyny. Well, for one, you said you do not need men's rights, and there's a difference between men's rights and men right activism. But that's just semantics. I can't speak. I'm going to stop. Whether I'm expressing my emotions, playing with children, baking, having sex wherein I am penetrating in any way, wearing the wrong color, talking the wrong way, moving the wrong way, being sexually harassed, assaulted, or paying too little attention to looking like I'm not paying attention to how I look. How many times can you... Okay. When society punishes me or derides me or marginalizes me for these things, it is happening because these things because they are things women, not men, are expected to do, and our society at large fucking hates women. No, I don't think it hates women, but I mean, you said you're a guy, and then you're saying that these are things that women are expected to do. So you're saying that men are not expected to do any of them? Oh, I guess not. I mean, okay, you kind of drew out your point a lot on that one, but okay. So all of these things are things that women are expected to do, but I guess men are not. Has that sunk in yet? Men, can you even think of a single goddamn way that you have ever been mocked that wasn't related to something that a misogynist society sees as feminizing? I don't know. I've been called a weakling before. Had nothing to do with being female. It had to do with the fact that someone did perceive me as being strong. Specifically, my stepfather. He thought that men should be strong and saw me as very weak, so he called me a weakling. He also called me gay for that reason, too. I don't understand it, but okay. Where was I? Even when large men are mocked for their bodies, oh, look at that. They are being referred to as having man boobs, for fuck's sakes. I was super skinny as a child, so I never got accused of having man boobs. I'm sure some people are, but I wasn't. How do you expect to improve those things with men's rights? What are you fighting for? Well, if you actually ask someone, you might find out. I can tell you what I think you're fighting for. Oh, please enlighten me. I think you're fighting for the right to contain and control misogyny and direct it back at women. Isn't misogyny coming from men? So we want to contain it and direct it back at women. Well, to direct it back at women would insinuate that women are giving it to men, which doesn't make sense. Where you think it belongs. Well, no, misogyny doesn't exist anywhere, much less does it exist where women are directing it at men, and men are trying to direct it back at women. I mean, the logistics of this is incredibly stupid. You want to maintain your privilege but erase its consequences. Yes, because having a fair trial system for men and women in family court, we want to erase the consequence of that. Having children, that's not a consequence to us. Having to take care of them. I mean, yes, I am using the word consequence, but I'm using it in a metaphorical sense. I'm not saying that children are bad things to have. They are great things to have, but most men don't get that privilege. And if we're trying to erase the consequences of things, we'd be happy with the way the court system is now. And that's why your movement is, I'm not familiar with this word, farcical. It's a big fucking feedback loop. Yeah, I don't think you understand what you're actually talking about. How do you expect men to be free from the peripheral effects of misogyny when you refuse to even fucking believe it's real? Wait, you said that we're trying to redirect misogyny back at women, then saying that we don't believe in misogyny? I mean, sometimes people misspeak, kind of like how I was saying about the consequence and all of that. And, I quickly explained myself like, well, I didn't mean it exactly like that and explained it to you. But this is like someone who's just writing off and not even really realizing what they're saying. Okay, so to be fair to Ariel, I will read what she wrote before I read what the other post was. As she stated, I have deleted a post I made of a screenshot I found on Facebook talking about the problems with men's rights activists. My only intent was to spread the message that the post made because I thought it made a very good point. Instead of reblogging the post I made, which is outdated, you can reblog this post and she links directly to it, which is basically titled "Misandry Isn't Real, Dudes." Dudes is spelled with a Z. Yeah, I'm going to take it real serious at that point. So, and then she actually responds to this, a post that brilliantly explains why men's rights activists are just misguided. No, it doesn't. And why the oppression that men face in culture is not a result of misandry, but of misogyny. No, it doesn't. It doesn't even begin to say that. All it says is that it's not misandry and that we're just redirecting misogyny back at women, which doesn't make sense. Misogyny is the hatred of women. And if we're directing it back at women, that means they have to be directing it at men. Why would women be directing hate for women at men? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And you're like, oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, take that, you men's rights activists. Lord. All right, so our friends with Social Justice for All has a big picture, objection, and has this caricature pointing away. So, wrong on many accounts. The MRA movement came out of feminism because, despite feminism saying that they fight for men's rights, when it comes to certain things, they ignore rights and felt that they needed a movement for them. Well, yeah, I mean, feminists are always saying, well, we represent men's rights. You know, we want to see both sexes equal to each other. And then start talking about all the things that women have. It's like, well, women can't, wage gap issues and, you know, having to deal with rape and rape culture, and men are all rapists and all men should die. But we want equality for men and women together. So going back to this, both men and women are faced with gender roles, Drew. I've seen as stepping outside of your role and being weak if you express emotion. Oh, it's seen as stepping out. Many men, feminine women, just as a woman, would be reprimanded if she were to enjoy something typically masculine. Men are reprimanded for not being manly. Well, that's very true. Growing up, I got made fun of by my parents. I got made fun of school children, men and women, not men and women, but boys and girls, making fun of me because I was different. I didn't fit into any gender role. I got made fun of all the time. Dyke, butch, tomboy, all used against women who step outside of what women are stereotyped as doing. Yeah, women shouldn't be stereotyped like this. If a woman wants to be any of these things, she should be able to do it. Hell, the MRA feels that way. Expressing emotion. It's not seen as a sign of weakness, not femininity. It's considered a point of strength for things not to affect you, or for them not to appear to affect you. Feminists also mock males who express emotion. Male tears, for example, or calling them babies, or any time they have a complaint, basically invalidating it by saying women have it worse. This is a very true statement. It's not that, I was very emotional as a child, and thanks to abusive that I suffered as a child, I became less emotional. But as a child, I was very emotional and was basically seen as being very weak. It had nothing to do with the fact that I was being compared to a girl, especially by my stepfather. It's just that boys didn't have these kind of emotions. And in fact, I got physically abused because of this, because boys were not allowed to cry. And I got punished for crying because it was considered weak. And, I was psychologically abused that I had to learn not to cry in order to not get hit. And it left a lasting impact on me that I'm actually not capable of crying, except in if I watch a sad movie, that's about the only exception, but you could snap my leg off my body and I wouldn't cry. Someone very important to me could die and I wouldn't cry because there's just a mental block in me that prevents me from actually crying. And let me tell you that crying is one of the best things that can ever happen. And I always see girls complain like, I cried too much and I wish I didn't. And it's like, you don't know how lucky you have it. I can't cry. It's just not something I can do. And I'll tell you something, not being able to cry is one of the worst punishments you can ever have. Being able to cry, releases a lot out of you. And yeah, it wasn't because I was being compared to a female, it's just that men were supposed to be strong, and I was not perceived as strong, so it had to be beaten out of me. Playing with children. That comes from a stereotype that men who love their children or love children are pedophiles. Some airlines won't let men sit near children on airlines because they might be child molesters. It's not hatred of women, it's stereotyping that A, men have an uncontrollable sexual urge, and once the mood strikes, they will do anything to satisfy it, and B, only men are child molesters. Women don't enter into the equation as to why men aren't allowed near children. I've heard feminists say that it's a small price to pay because a man might be a child molester, so they shouldn't let men near children. Feminism also conveniently ignores the fact that women can be child molesters and child killers. In fact, a majority of child killers are mothers and stepmothers. And they link to an article for that, which I'm not going to look at, I've looked at it, but I'm not going to address it here. Baking. I've never really heard any man, no matter how masculine, get reprimanded for baking. I bake, I cook. No one's ever said anything about it to me. In fact, I've impressed some girls with my cooking ability. You'd be amazed how many women like watching men cook. Cooking is generally seen as a desirable trait in either sex because it shows autonomy and maturity. Maybe in the past it was seen as girly thing to do, but the stigma's been absolved. It's hard to read and talk like that for some reason. And I mean no disrespect by the people who did it. For some reason, I just see that caricature and want to talk like that. So please know that it's out of respect for you. It's not to make fun of you. No one's called chefs girly for cooking, do they? In fact, there's a rather popular post complaining about men being top-level chefs. Nothing really to say on that one. I mean, the stigma has... I still see some men having a problem with this, but I see some women who don't know how to cook. And it's like, oh shit, I'm not going to cook. I don't know how to do this. I'm like, oh my God, it's so fracking easy. Being penetrated. Yeah, that was bullshit. Homophobia and sexism aren't always correlated. This assumes that A, only gay men are stigmatized, and B, only men are homophobic. There are women who are incredibly homophobic, and there are people who hate homosexuals because of faith and based reasons. There are also crimes and hatred against lesbians. Homophobia isn't related to sexism. Personal experience for me is I used to identify on OkCupid as being bisexual. And under certain circumstances, that can happen for me. And I found that women refused to talk to me because I listed as bisexual. So I listed as straight. I now realize that I'm what you call heteroflexible, meaning like I'm 90% straight, but there's just that, if it's the right guy, I might do something. You never know, maybe. But it's been like several years since anything like that happened. But it's like the moment I became straight, a lot of women started talking to me. And I found it so fascinating. Even the girls that considered themselves bisexual were appalled by the idea of a guy being bisexual. And it was sexism I was facing. It was like, oh, you're bisexual? I don't want to talk to you. Oh, you're straight? Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to talk to you. And, you see so many profiles on there, you don't necessarily remember all the people you see. But I do remember a few people I tried contacting when I was supposedly bi. And they were like, oh, I don't want to talk to you because you're bisexual. And they said that to me. Well, most just ignored me, but the few who responded, like, not interested, don't like bi guys. A few months later, I switched and I tried talking to them again. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'd like to talk to you. And it's like, wow, that's just amazing. And it's like, it's okay. And this is something I've always seen growing up. I mean, yeah, there are some fundamentalists out there, but it's okay for women to be gay. It's okay for women to be bisexual. Men, the only thing you're allowed to be is straight. And that was growing up. Nowadays, that has certainly changed, and I'm thankful that it has. But even now, I still see a stigma against bi men. And it's stupid. It's stupid that seems to be the one thing that everyone can agree is the one problem. And it's like, okay. I mean, I haven't seen it in quite some time, so I'm hoping that it has improved. But I mean, I'm talking about maybe 5-6 years ago when I started seeing this problem. That, oh, you're a bi guy? No, we don't want to talk to you. We don't want to be with a guy who sucks other guys' dick. All right. Appearance. Men are supposed to dress a certain way. I mean, have you ever seen the dress codes for some companies? Women are allowed to wear pants and skirts. They're allowed to wear blouses, button-up shirts. Men, button-up shirt, slacks, and dress shoes. Women actually get a lot of freedom in this and still complain about how, oh, we're being so oppressed at work and at school that we're not allowed to dress how we want. We have to dress how they want, and we get no options. And it's like men have even less options. Anyways, men are supposed to dress a certain way, something that complements being in a position of power and confidence. For example, suits are specifically designed to make masculine traits and masculine desired appearances prominent. Wide shoulders, slim and tall. The stigma of weak men isn't related to femininity. It's about stepping outside of roles. Men are supposed to be a certain way. Women are supposed to be a certain way. Look at women in any position that would be considered masculine. Scrutiny for everything, even if it's innocuous. If a woman dresses in a masculine way or acted like a man, she'd be considered a deviant. To assure that hatred of men stems from hatred of women, to assume, and that men are feeding into it also ignores how feminism have hurt male rights and why the men's right movement exists in the first place. Yes, pretty much. Pretty much exactly that. And this goes for a lot of things, not just for appearance. I think maybe this is a separate argument from appearance. To assume that the hatred of men stems from the hatred of women and that men are feeding Into It also ignores how feminists have hurt male rights and why male rights movement exists in the first place. I mean, we've seen a lot of things, and he's going to go through it, and maybe I shouldn't say anything, but it's like one of the biggest things is male rape abuse shelters and how feminism has tried to close those down, or the fact that there are laws that make it very difficult to prove that a woman raped a man. And these were done by feminists. I won't take away from what this person is saying, but let's go ahead and read it. The Duluth model, which feminists fought for, assumes men are the aggressors and women are the victims. Even when men are the majority of non-reciprocal domestic violence by women linked, even now domestic violence legislation assumes males are the majority of the perpetrators, despite numerous studies saying otherwise. Linked now fought against fathers' rights, NOW in all caps, linked, claiming they were abusive and that women should be given custody. Yeah, that's a big one right there. Basically, I forgot his name, something Papa, stated that in his own experience that 85% of custody cases in family court that children go with their mother. It's pretty much like that's the automatic thing, that there's such a bias. And in 15% of cases, about half of them are because the mother didn't show up. And the other half that for some reason the court believes that the mother is a danger to the child in some way. And that's usually kind of extreme. I've heard of cases, a case, I forget where, and I wish I could link to it, which I could find if I really wanted to, that basically a woman went to jail for 2 years or however long, and custody got awarded to the husband. When she got out, she immediately got custody, and this was considered a really big deal because of the reason why she went to jail. And I forget the reason why she went to jail, but it was such a thing. And it wasn't even like, oh, we should have another trial. It was just automatically given that she had shared custody. And it's men want to take children away from their mothers. We just want shared custody automatically. Not that women get children automatically and men have to fight even for visitation rights. It should start with equal custody and then decided from there. Because the biggest thing is that men are always financially responsible for children, but women are rarely financially responsible for children. If men get sole custody, women are not required to pay anything as far as child support goes. But if women get sole custody, men are required to pay child support and can even go to jail if they don't pay child support payments, even if they've lost their job. And it's awful. It's awful how this system works. Anyways, there's more to go. MRAs also want campuses to thoroughly investigate rape claims. In colleges, the current federal standards basically say if there's a chance that he did it, even if it's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then he gets kicked off the campus and branded a rapist. Paul Elam talked at KSUM this past week, and he talked about this case of this kid being accused of rape, basically being expelled and from college, getting a bad rap sheet basically, and not being able to find work. And the victim eventually called the police after the college kicked him off, and not only did they find no evidence for it, well, they found evidence that she made it up. They found no evidence for the rape and then found evidence that she made it up, and she left the state to avoid prosecution. And that's kind of sad. But the sad part is the college didn't care. It's like, well, so what, you know? And he eventually, through some lawyers, got his name cleared of any wrongdoing. And it's just like, nowadays, if you go to college, don't have sex. Do not hook up with any girl at all. Because if she even points at you, you can be expelled. That's the reality now. That's what's scary now about colleges, is that if a woman just wants to be vindictive, she can say, that guy over there raped me last night, and the school will kick them out. It doesn't matter what the police say. Now, yes, there are some kids out there who do rape, and it is bad, and they should be punished in a court of law. And that the college should reflect that. But if there's even a suggestion that a kid might have raped, and the deciding community is both students and faculty, and if they believe it's possible, expel, just like that. Anyways, even when there are false claims of rape and they're kicked off, and are kicked off if they're proven false. This puts the burden of proof on the defendant to prove that something didn't happen, rather than the prosecution to prove a crime took place, as with every other trial in our legal system. It's a civil hearing, so they aren't allowed representation or defense. During actual rape trials, they want their names shielded, lest vigilante justice or mob psychology take over. Now, this is a big thing as well, is that women have prevented men from having some sort of shield from their names from the public, which you can get in most other cases, most other types of cases, but not rape for some reason. And I think feminists don't want this to be reversed because they want men to be scared that they could get killed, or they want the mob to kill them. It's sociopathic behavior, in all honesty. I mean, you want someone to face justice and go to prison for what they did, fine, but still be human. Human first. I understand that, people who get raped are really traumatized, and yeah, that's bad, and that should be dealt with the proper way. But don't lose your humanity in the process. One of the people I respect most, Godless Mom, go ahead and check out her website if you ever get the chance. She is an amazing person because she got raped by someone she knew and went to trial. It went to trial and realized that the person on trial, the person who did rape her, didn't have any legal defense at all. None was given to him, and he had to defend himself, and the court was going to rule against him. And they didn't really seek proof. They didn't really try to get any evidence. It was just her word versus his, and she walked out. And you just don't see that these days. I mean, this was in Canada, so the legal system's a little bit different than it here is in the United States, but still. Her word versus his, no evidence was needed, and he was going to be convicted and go to jail. Now, yes, he did do it, but he should have the human rights that every other defendant has in any other crime, and he didn't get that. And, she's someone I look up to a lot. She is someone that I think is a very good person who really understands what human rights is. So definitely check her out. Godless Mom, yeah, she's an atheist, and I also really like her for that as well. But definitely check out her story. So anyways, I keep deviating from this. You can tell I'm passionate about these things. Doing actual rape trials, they want, yeah, I already said that, they want males to be harshly punished. They also want male rape to be as harshly punished as female rape. but only recently did the CDC even count force to penetrate as sexual assault. When force to penetrate was counted, men made up 40% of rape victims. And yeah, that's the basic truth right there. And Mary Koss for that one. And I hope I meet her one day. I talk about her a lot. And I'd like to shake her hand for, not to congratulate her or anything, just to look her in the eye, just to see what is behind those eyes. Nothing more. I don't care if we never talk. I don't care if I never see her again. I would like to look her in the eyes, just to see what is behind those eyes. Because, she basically convinced the CDC that force to penetrate was not counted, was not rape, and that it's only sexual assault. And I guess this was an independent study that was done. I know this report, and it does show force to penetrate as sexual assault. So the only way men can be counted as rape is if someone inserted something into them. And that's if they report it. And men are often laughed at for reporting it. I often say there's a rape culture because of how men are treated with rape. And you hear stories all the time about adolescent boys being raped by adult women and adult women getting a slap on the hand. Because the general defense is, I won't do it again, is enough to convince judges. And of course, there was also that thing, and I'm sorry if this ends up talking about it, where a guy in Arizona, 20 years old, finds out that he's had a child, that he has a 6-year-old child, 6, 7, something like that. He was basically molested at 13, so yeah, probably about 7 years old, 6, 7, and required to pay child support for all of the years since that child was born, even though the state of Arizona stated that he was an underage and she committed a crime. And he was required to pay child support since the child was born. And it ended up being like $15,000 he had to pay for the child. And, he wants to do the right thing and do it, and that's all well and fine, but he didn't know that there was a child. And plus the fact, he wasn't old enough to get a job. He wasn't old enough to vote. He wasn't old enough to drive. And yet he's financially responsible for a child? And, feminists don't seem to care about that. They want equal rights for men and women, but that's perfectly okay. If I was in a better situation in my life, I would have loved to throw a Kickstarter to help get that guy money to pay off that, because that's awful, and bring some attention to it. Male statutory rape victims, I guess I'm not doing the voice anymore. Male statutory rape victims are often swept under the rug, and people argue that they aren't really victims. The victims can also be charged for child support. Linked. And yeah. I think that link is actually talking about the case that I'm talking about. So yeah, they just did it. I read through this and then forgot it when I was reading it. All right, let me actually do this because I'm going to be on this video for quite some time. Okay. Speaking of reproductive rights and freedoms, men have none. Period. True. They may be forced to pay child support for a child that they did not consent to, as the above story, or where a man specifically avoided pregnancy risk through safe sex and avoided anything that could impregnate, but he is still responsible for a child that he didn't consent to by any means because a woman stole sperm from his condom. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up, but that's linked right there. Or this one, where a man has to pay child support for a child that's not even his, or where a man donates sperm and he's still obligated to pay. Yeah, there was another story. God, I just had it too. Yeah, but we see this. Oh, the California thing that there's a couple of places basically that a woman can name whoever she wants to be the father, even if he is or not, and the state will send out information. I know this happens in California, I believe Missouri as well, in Utah. I don't know all the states offhand. I don't know what all the states are, but I know that many of them are like this. So basically, send out a form that they have to fill out, basically proving that they are not the father by requesting a DNA test. They only have 30 days to do this. Not doing it within 30 days, they basically relinquish the right to deny that they're the father, even if a later DNA test would prove that they're not the father, and are financially responsible. And what if it gets lost in the mail? What if it's delivered to an old address? You know, what if it gets sent to the wrong place? You know, that it's just such a back-ass system, you know, and that's just what it is. So men really don't have any reproductive rights. I mean, the sperm in your body is not yours to have. I mean, a woman could break into your house, inject you with, well, put a needle into your testicles, extract sperm. I don't know if that's actually possible. Then use it to impregnate herself, and then tell the court, oh, I did all of these things, but he still needs to pay for the child, and the court would require you to do it. And the fact that a woman can take semen from her mouth, that a guy, you know, ejaculates in her mouth, and she can use it to impregnate herself, and the courts will basically say, well, you know, it was no longer his. He gave it to her as a gift to use however she wants. No. Or the fact that, you know, she impregnated herself with what he put into a condom. It's so crazy. And in the end, it's just like, what's best for the child? Well, the child needs support. So, you know, it doesn't matter what circumstances the child was born. And also the fact that women can choose to abort the child. Men don't get that choice. They probably won't ever get that choice, no matter what the argument is. That's a very tough one. Even if they want the child, the woman can still decide to abort the child. They can give the child up for adoption and not give a man a right to fight for the right of the child. They're like, yeah, just give it up for abortion. Not abortion. Give it up for adoption. And a man doesn't have a say-so in that. There are also countless stories of women buying fake pregnancy tests just to dupe someone into marriage, which is fraud. They even sell these on online shopping sites such as Craigslist or eBay. There are also several stories of women altering birth control, either their own or their partners, to force them to have a baby. We're told that when a woman consents to sex, she doesn't consent to a baby, but men don't have that luxury. Even if they don't consent to sex, they consent to a child. MRAs want to be able to opt out of children conceived like this. Women can get an abortion without the other parent's knowledge or permission, or even adopt them out. Yeah, I guess I should just literally let them read it. MRAs want the draft to be ended. Women have unconditional right to vote for student loans and federal aids for college, and the option to go into the military in times of need. Men don't have that. We have to register for selective service to get any of those benefits. Basically, they're saying they have the right to vote, and get student loans or federal aid for college. Men don't. We have to sign up for selective service. And if they ever decide to do another draft, men are required to go. They don't get the choice. Now, the argument I often hear in that is like, well, we haven't had a draft in a long time. Okay, what if they decided to do a draft? We have to register for selective service to get any of those benefits or be fined or arrested. Male circumcision, despite having no health benefit, it's still legal for no reason. Male mental health is also stigmatized. Despite men being a majority of suicides, no one addresses it or why it exists. MRAs try to get this addressed. There's a video of Warren Farrell trying to of protesters for it, and a guy basically tries to go into the protest and gets called a rape apologist and an incest apologist and just a horrible thing. And when he was on camera, he says, well, you know, two of my male friends committed suicide within the last year. And I was hoping to get some information on why. And yet he's being met with, oh, well, you're a rape apologist for wanting to go see Warren Farrell. And it's a very serious thing. Now, the argument I hear about this is, oh, well, women commit suicide more often than men, but men actually end up killing themselves. Something I heard on Criminal Minds is that women tend to commit suicide in the cleanest way possible, usually like taking a lot of pills. And men are not so concerned about the mess and will just take a gun to their head and shoot themselves. Not to say that women don't take a gun to their head, but it's less often than they do than compared to men. So men often choose methods that are guaranteed to actually kill them, where women, it can be hit or miss, and women often survive suicide attempts for these reasons. Despite making up nearly 70% of violence victims, everyone just focuses on the female victims. Anti-violence campaigns predominantly feature women. Hillary Clinton says that women are the primary victims of war because the men in their lives die. Hell, even video games, women are considered real victims. Pick Grand Theft Auto series. There was a lot of controversy because you could kill women in brutal ways. And, you know, in, God, what's that series called? Fallout? You could kill children. There's no controversy on that one. I remember the Mass Effect controversy. It's a sex simulator. Yeah, you see characters suggesting they're having sex. And then the idea, oh no, it's bad because you can kill women. I think I read somewhere, you know, oh, you can, some game developer was saying someone's criticizing me because she purposely killed a female in a video game. And I'm a misogynist. You know, what would they said if you couldn't kill women? You know, you shoot at them and they don't die. Oh, it's sexist because they're just trying to treat us as damsels. Oh, you can kill them. Oh, well, that's just misogyny. Just can't win. But the exact same things could happen to men. And you are often supposed to kill men in brutal ways for missions. MRAs want the men or disposable gender thinking out. I mean, people die in video games, but if you actually look at the numbers, anywhere from 90 to 99%, even 100% of men in video games die. You know, it's like, look at Metal Gear Solid. How many female characters did you actually have? Sniper Wolf, and Meryl Silverberg, and if you didn't, tap out if you tapped out in the torture, Meryl dies. So that's two female characters, and you have how many male characters? Oh well, you have all of the Foxhound members. You have the cyborg ninja. What about all the guards you killed? Those were all men. Sure, their faces were covered up so you didn't feel bad about killing them, but they were all men. How many men did you go around killing in Metal Gear Solid? Which basically means that about 95 to 99% of the people killed within the first Metal Gear Solid game were men. But men are expendable, so it doesn't matter. It's only when it's a woman that it's bad. Women are not allowed in video games. Or if you're going to have them, they're not allowed to die. That's what the feminists want. There are some MRAs that are sexist, which is why I'm not an MRA. I have met some bad ones out there. There are a lot of good ones, and people with a voice for men seem to be a lot of good ones out there. But there are some bad ones out there. But I'm an egalitarian. There are, just as there are some feminists who are sexist, most, and those who think that women belong on a pedestal and deny any wrongdoing of women and blame it on men. So yeah, that's really it for this. What can I say? This is a really good post. I see a lot of posts like this. I just really enjoyed it. It really talks about the men's right activism in a positive way. Many people I see who argue against feminism also seems to argue against the MRA. And, while I don't identify as an MRA, because again, my bad experiences, there are a lot of good ones out there. I believe Sage is one who hosted the whole case sum, and he's someone I would really hope to meet one day. I think he does Honey Badger stuff as well. I'm not really sure. I kind of forget their names and voices after I stop hearing them. Blame it on my disability for that one. But yeah, the MRAs get a lot of bad rap, and it's like the thing I love about MRAs is that they do try to please their own a little bit. They can't get to everyone, but anyone who's vocal and public about it, they go after them and say, look, you have nothing to do with us. We want you gone, and denounce them. Feminism, I'm sorry, feminists, you don't really do anything. And I call you out on this shit all the time, and yet you feminists seem to kind of disappear from the conversation when I call you out on it. And one of these days, I want a feminist to actually talk to me about this. You have so many radicals in your movement. Mary Koss, for example, saying that men cannot be raped. And feminists saying, well, she's not actually a feminist. She's not one of us. Feminism is not like that. She did it in the name of feminism. And she's vocal as a feminist. And when people think of feminists, she's one that they think of. Oh, but she's not actually a feminist. Then what are you doing about her? Feminism, you need to fix the mistakes that your movement, your modern movement, has done to this society. All of the shelters you've closed, all the laws that you forced to get passed. Excuse me. I'm talking for too long. I need to stop. But all of these laws that were passed because of feminist influence, all of this shaming that men have to deal with, you need to go out there and fix it. This is on you. This is your movement. If you want to be labeled as a feminist, if you want to stand by that title, then either A, prepare to be looked down upon because of what your movement has done in the name of feminism, or B, go out there and try to repair things and say, look, my movement has done a lot
Okay, so I don't know if this is going to be a separate video or not. I'm going to go ahead and just end now, because I'm basically spouting the same stuff I always spout. So, um, so this is Mad Cat signing off.